Krishna Krishna Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Jaya Vijay Gauranga Jaya Nitai Vijay Gauranga Jaya Nitai Vijay Gauranga Jaya Nitai Vijay Gauranga Jaya Nitai Jaya Prabhupada Srila Prabhupada Jaya Prabhupada Srila Prabhupada Shri Vijay Gauranga Dayanta Ki Jai Shiva Prabhupada Ki Jai Nitai Gaur Premanande Hari Bom. Hare Krishna. Thank you all for coming today. I am actually a little bit shy even to kind of try to give a class in front of so many devotees, but I will try my best to serve as an instrument of Shri Shri Vijay Gauranga and Dayal Nitai and Guru Parampara. And with your blessings, hopefully it will work. So we are starting from reading from the Transcendental Diary, and the paragraph is like this. This addressed Dr. Knupper's earlier misgivings directly and prompted him to ask about Srila Prabhupada's opinion of Christianity. Prabhupada responded that the problem is in knowing which branch of Christianity is authentic. Apart from that, he said that although the 10 Commandments say, "Thou shalt not kill," all Christians eat meat. So this is the paragraph, and actually it's even a little bit connected with the verse, with the today's verse. So, and yeah, Srila Prabhupada, he many times when he met Christians, he didn't attack their philosophy very much. But he always mentioned, almost, I don't know, in any instance that he spoke with Christians, at least those instances that I have read about or heard of, he always mentioned this point, vegetarianism, that you should not kill. And he asked these Christians, and irrespective of their position, he asked them, like, why are you not following this commandment by Lord Jesus Christ and this commandment from the Bible? And they couldn't answer. They couldn't answer. So, and many times he defeated them like that. Because any living being, even if he is philosophically somehow rather trying to justify meat eating, he can feel, he or she or they, living beings, they can feel something in their hearts that it's not correct to do that. It's not right to do that. Even we have some relatives who are Jehovah's Witnesses, and we sometimes had some conversations with them. And you know, Jehovah's Witnesses, I don't know about the others. I think all Christian denominations, they may be kind of fanatical, because their philosophy mainly is quite simple and straightforward. And one of the main things there is that we are right and all others go to hell. But in this Jehovah's Witnesses, they at least, they study like that, and that's what they said to us, that before this great deluge, what they call it in English, I don't even know, this... No, not Judgment Day, but when there was a lot of water. Yeah, what do you call it? Deluge or flood, the Great Flood, yeah, that's what they call it, I think. The Great Flood, when there was a lot of water, this Noah, yeah, he built this big boat and he saved humanity and other living species. So they say that before that, meat eating was not allowed. And only after this great flood, the Lord allowed people to eat meat because there was not enough food. So that at least they recognize this point, these Jehovah's Witnesses. And I told them, well, okay, now we have so much food already. The times after the flood have passed, and we have so much food around. Why do we need to eat animals? And they say, well, you know, well, and they can't explain this point. So, but at least they recognize that there was no meat eating before this great flood. So, and I tell them that, you know, actually it means that God didn't want that, yes? So he allowed this only in some extreme circumstances after the flood. But, so they can't answer. And they start quoting, you know, from the Bible that some kind of animals with this kind of hooves you can eat them, and with this kind of hooves you cannot eat them, things like that. But anyway, they can't explain. So Yeah, this is from Transcendental Diary. And now our today's verse from Srimad Bhagavatam. This is 5, 6, 13. Yeah, Srimad Bhagavatam 5, 6, 13. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. 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 First, I will read the verse try to read the verse in Sanskrit. Actually, it's an interesting shloka because you can see that there are 5 lines, yes? There are 5 lines, and if you try to read it with some usual meter, it will not work. So I even had to consult one Pandit. This is Brijabasi Prabhu from Ukraine. He is a very learned scholar and also in Sanskrit, and he explained to me that the first line actually it comes as not a meter, it's just prose, and then the next 4 lines, they are like a meter. So I will try to read like he showed me. So first line, Tasya nugunan shlokan gayanti. Aho bhuva sapta samudravatya dvipeshu varsheshv adipunyametat gayanti yatratya jana murare karmani bhadrani avataravanti. Once again. Tasyanu gunan shlokan gayanti. Aho bhuva sapta samudravatya dvipeshu varsheshv adipunyametat gayanti yatratya jana murare karmani bhadrani avataravanti. Now, maybe Prabhuji's. Okay. Mataji's are more. Yeah, well, let's try.
Tasya nugunan shlokan gayanti. Aho bhuva sapta samudravatya.
Aho bhuva sapta samudravatya.
Dvipeshu varshvesh adhipunyam etat.
Dvipeshu varshesh adipunyam etat.
Gayanti yatratya jana murare.
Gayanti yatratya jana murare.
Karmani bhadrani avataravanti.
Karmani bhadrani avataravanti. Okay, maybe I will do it once again. Tasyano gunan shlokan gayanti. Aho bhuva sapta samudravatya. Dvipeshu varsheshv adipunyametat. Gayanti yatratya jana murare. Karmani bhadranyavataravati. Maybe Mataji's? Tasyanu gunan shlokan gayanti. Aho bhuva sapta samudravatya. Dvipeshu varsheshva dipunyametat. Gayanti yatrata jana murare. Karmani bhadranyavataravati. Okay, then I will do it once again and that's it. Tasyanu gunan shlokan gayanti. Aho bhuva sapta samudravatya Dvipeshu varsheshvadipu nametat Gayanti yatra tyajana murare Karmani bhadranyavataranti. Now word for word translation. Tasya, of him, Lord Rishabhadeva. Anugunan, conforming to the instructions for liberation. Shlokan, verses. Gayanti, chant. Aho, oh. Bhuva, of this earthly planet. Sapta samudra vatya, possessing 7 seas. Dvipeshu, among the islands. Varsheshu, among the lands. Adipunyam, more pious than any other island. Etat, this Bharatavarsha. Gayanti, sing about. Yatratya jana, the people of this tract of land. Murare, of Murari, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Karmani, the activities. Bhadrani, all auspicious. Avataravanti, in many incarnations such as Lord Rishabhadeva. So the translation of this verse. Learned scholars chant about the transcendental qualities of Lord Rishabhadeva in this way. Oh, this earthly planet contains 7 seas and many islands and lands, of which Bharatavarsha is considered the most pious. People of Bharatavarsha are accustomed to glorifying the activities of the Supreme Personality of Godhead in His incarnations as Lord Rishabhadeva and others. All these activities are very auspicious for the welfare of humanity. And the purport by His Divine Grace, Abhaya Charanaravinda Bhakti Vedanta Swami Prabhupada. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu said, Bharata bhumite haila manusha janmayara, janma sarthaka kari kara para upakara. As stated in this verse, Bharatavarsha is a most pious land. The followers of Vedic literature understand the Supreme Personality of Godhead in His different incarnations, and they are privileged to glorify the Lord by following the directions of Vedic literature. After realizing the glories of human life, such people should take up the mission to spread the importance of human life throughout the whole world. This is the mission of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. The word Adipunyam indicates that there are certainly many other pious men throughout the world, but the people of Bharatavarsha are even more pious. Therefore, they are fit to spread Krishna consciousness throughout the world for the benefit of all human society. Srila Madhvacharya also recognizes the land of Bharatavarsha, Visheshad Bharate Punyam. Throughout the world, there is no question of Bhagavad Bhakti or devotional service, but the people of Bharatavarsha can easily understand the devotional service of the Lord. Thus, every inhabitant of Bharatavarsha can perfect his life by discharging Bhagavad Bhakti and then preaching this cult throughout the world for the benefit of everyone. So, I'll read the translation of the verse once again. Learned scholars chant about the transcendental qualities of Lord Rishabhadeva in this way. Oh, this earthly planet contains 7 seas and many islands and lands, of which Bharatavarsha is considered the most pious. People of Bharatavarsha are accustomed to glorifying the activities of the Supreme Personality of Godhead in His incarnations as Lord Rishabhadeva and others. All these activities are very auspicious for the welfare of humanity. There's one interesting point here that Srila Prabhupada mentions in his purport. Throughout the world, there is no question of Bhagavad Bhakti or devotional service, but the people of Bharatavarsha can easily understand the devotional service of the Lord. I remember one example. I watched some video, I don't know, maybe 10 years ago, of one Christian preacher who went to India. And he started preaching about the glories of Lord Jesus Christ. And he said, you know what? And he started like glorifying that this is all the glories of Lord Jesus Christ, and because of that it happened. But what happened is it was somewhere in the village or something like that, in a village. And there people gathered around him, a lot of people gathered around him. And after some time, when he continued glorifying the Lord Jesus Christ, people started crying, you know, they started explicitly showing their emotions. And he said, well, you see, this is the glories of Jesus Christ. And what I thought, I thought that actually this is the inclination of people of India. Because if you preach like that in the West, even you preach to us, we're not so inclined to crying, you know. We are not so inclined to having emotions about the Lord. But people there, who were not exposed actually to any Christian preaching so much before that, they immediately expressed these emotions. So it was not the result of Christian preaching, it was the result of something that is deep in their hearts already. This is some special birth. Also, I'd like to mention here that Bharatavarsha is a controversial, or not a controversial, but there are controversial opinions of what it really means. What part of our planet it means, or maybe it's our whole planet. Because actually, if you study, this will come actually later in the 5th canto, but I must say that without drawing some schemes, it will almost be impossible to understand how it looks like. So some devotees, and me included, we have been trying, and some devotees in the past, senior devotees, we have been trying to make schemes, various, I mean like drafts of how it should look like. Because if you just read descriptions, it will be like, you know, some porridge at the end. You will not understand anything. But then if you draw everything according to this description, you will be able to understand something. So I think I mentioned this maybe sometime earlier, that there is Puranic cosmology, as in Srimad Bhagavatam and as in other Puranas. And there is also, so to say, Siddhantic cosmology. This is mentioned in various astrological Siddhantas. And I think I mentioned this Surya Siddhanta. And I also mentioned that Srila Prabhupada's spiritual master, Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakura, he got his name Siddhanta Saraswati first, before he got his name Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati. He first got his name Siddhanta Saraswati, because he translated and commented this Surya Siddhanta in Bengali. And he was a very well-known scholar throughout India in cosmology, astrology. Actually, in India, it's the same thing. It's, for us, it's like astrology is some kind of techniques of forecasting the future, but and cosmology is something very different. But there, in Vedic knowledge, it's all interconnected. So actually, in Surya Siddhanta, the distances to the moon and to other planets is given like it's almost the same as the current data that we have from modern scientists. The only thing, the only difference is that our modern approach is heliocentric, which means sun-centered, so everything moves around the sun. But in Surya Siddhanta, although the distances are very similar to modern science, but it's geocentric, so everything moves. So it's like the sun moves around the Earth, and then all other planets move around the sun. This is why we get, by the way, maybe you heard about some retrograde Mercury. Who has heard about retrograde Mercury? No, you don't know? It's a horrible thing. Even I will tell you that in Ukraine, at least, even common people who know nothing of Vedic astrology or whatever, but they sometimes say, when there is some problem, they sometimes may say, oh, it's all because of this retrograde Mercury. You know, because so much astrological knowledge floating around. And retrograde, you see, when there is Earth, our planet in the center, and there is Sun going around our planet, and there are other planets going around the Sun, yes? And they make, if you make the Earth in the center, these other planets, they will make movement like this, spiral. So sometimes in the spiral, they go back to start another spiral. They go back to start another spiral. So this movement back, a little movement back, this is called retrograde movement. Now you are experts in astrology. Actually, now is the period of retrograde Mercury. Yes, yes. No, sorry, not now. It starts on the 10th of May and finishes, I think, on the 2nd of June. So beware.
2nd of June finishes?
Yes. But I think only Russian-speaking devotees are worried about this. So, yes, no problem for... because actually, you know, sometimes some people say, to hell with all this astrology. But it's a controversial question, of course. Srila Prabhupada, sometimes you will find a lot of quotes where he said that you shouldn't use astrology. But then Srila Prabhupada himself, even for himself, used astrology. And especially he recommended using astrology for making marriages, you know, matching people in the marriage, because it's like, it's practical. So he didn't deny astrology, you know, like whatsoever, completely he didn't deny this, but he just didn't want devotees to get too much into astrology, to get too deep, you know, to explain everything according to astrology. For example, bhaktas at the temple, they may say, oh, now it's retrograde Mercury, I will not go to distribute books, you know, or something like this. Or now is not some auspicious time of the day, I will not do any service, I will just lie in bed, you know, things like that. So, of course, Srila Prabhupada didn't want his devotees to get too much into astrology, but at the same time, it should be taken into account to a certain extent. But getting back to this Bharatavarsha, according to Puranic cosmology, a Bharatavarsha, at least from what all the learned, I would say Vaishnavas in ISKCON told me, and there are not so many of them who even get deep into this topic, but those who study this topic for some time, they told me that they can't explain, of course, this, so it will be some assumptions. And moreover, what makes it even more difficult, none of our acharyas have commented on this, you know, I mean Vaishnava acharyas in our line. So this makes it extremely difficult, and especially difficult it is because when you have to preach to people and you tell them, for example, that there is this earthly planet, then go these Svarga Loka, no, like there's one actually Loka in between, Bhuvar Swaha, so Bhuvar Loka, there is between our planetary level, there is Bhuvar Loka then, and then these Svarga Lokas. And then this famous assertion by Srila Prabhupada that actually the moon is further from us than the sun, you know? And that these Americans, they couldn't have flown to the moon because it's very far. And what they saw there, you know, this footage, that there is some desert, you know, things like that. So Srila Prabhupada always said that it was not true, it was a hoax. And even his very close disciple, my goodness, I don't remember, I think it was Purushottam. He was his quite close servant, I think, at the time. And because he heard that Srila Prabhupada denied the fact that Americans flew to the moon, he left the movement. He left Srila Prabhupada. And many devotees have doubts about it. So this is why, not knowing clearly, not having these comments by acharyas, it's sometimes very difficult to preach to people. When you tell them, okay, in Vedic knowledge you have everything, you have explanations of cosmology, you have this and that and this and that. And when they start asking you some questions you can't answer, you know, these questions. So this is why I mean, some devotees who studied this topic for some time, they have come to a conclusion that at least this is the explanation that we could give. That Puranic cosmology, it explains the world, the universe, from the point of view of the higher beings, like sages from higher planets and those guys from Svargaloka, I mean demigods. So for them it looks like this. And karmically it also looks like this, that our planet is on this plane, and then comes this Bhuvarloka, then Svargaloka, then 3 planetary systems of the sages, and then Brahmaloka. It's very far from us. According to the descriptions in the Bhagavatam, maybe you've seen these posters, yeah, where we have our planet, then go these next higher levels. But actually, if you draw a diagram according to the distances given in Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 5, you will see that Svargaloka, these higher planetary systems where Indra resides, it's very near. It's very near from us, not so far. But if you go each planet of this, each level of the sages, each loka of the sages comes further and further and further, and Brahmaloka is extremely far even from the last planetary level of the sages. So this is very, very, very far. So very, very far from us. So I want to say that actually these heavenly planets, they are not very far from us. Really not very far. But planets of the sages and Brahmaloka, just unimaginably far. So this creates a certain controversy that in Surya Siddhanta, the cosmology is very similar to what we have now. It's like there is also this knowledge of Bhugola Tattva, of planets as globes, as our modern science tells us. Yeah, that planets as globes. Yeah, like globes. And in Surya Siddhanta it's also like that. So what some devotees say is that Puranic cosmology from Srimad Bhagavatam, this is the worldview of sages and demigods. And Surya Siddhanta, it's given for the level of, for our level, for some practical level, so that we can calculate distances as we see it. The only difference from modern science, as I mentioned, is that in modern science they are concentrated on the sun, that everything goes around the sun, but in Surya Siddhanta, it's more practical because we have to study all the distances and calculate all the movements of the planetary bodies and everything. We have to calculate from the Earth because we have to astrologically calculate the days, you know, tithas and everything, periods. So this is why it's geocentric. That's the only difference. Other than that, the distances are very similar. If you compare, we also have created some table where we compared the distances given by modern science and the distances given in Surya Siddhanta. It's very, very close. So again, you have to mind that these are two concepts. And according to Puranic cosmology, Bharatavarsha is our planet, our whole planet. Everything we can see here is Bharatavarsha. It's part of Jambudvipa. Well, not to get too much into detail, but our level, our planetary level, Bhuloka. It's called Bhuloka. There are many islands, 7 islands actually, and in the center there is Jambudvipa. And in Jambudvipa there are 9 subdivisions, 9 varshas. And the varsha that is in the south, it's called Bharatavarsha. This is the land of activity, the land of karma. All other 8 varshas and It will also come a bit later here in Canto 5. All other 8 Varshas, it's called Bhusvarga, it seems to me. Yeah, I think it's Bhusvarga. Anyway, there is, it's the same. Like Svarga means heavenly level of life. So these guys who live there in these 8 other Varshas, they have almost a celestial level of life. Here in Srimad Bhagavatam, here in Canto 5, it says that those who have already finished their life cycle in Svarga, in higher planetary systems, where Indra resides, yeah, they gradually come lower, and they first come to these other 8 Varshas in our Jambudvipa island. And there they have like 10,000 years of life, and they are very powerful. So it's almost heavenly level of life. And only in our section called Bharatavarsha, we have like a shorter span of life. And by the way, only here we have, unfortunately, I haven't found this quote, but there is this quote, that only here, if someone needs this quote, I will find it. Somehow or other, I can't find my my materials from this cosmology course. Shri Shri Vijay Gauranga Realnita Ki Jai. And I couldn't find this quote quickly, but there is this quote. I think it's from Vishnu Purana, that we have Kali Yuga. It's a common question, by the way, at least according to the Vedas, at least according to the Shastra. We have Kali Yuga only here, yeah, not anywhere else. So we have some special mercy here. We have Kali, yeah, we have Kali Yuga here. So this Bharatavarsha is the land of karma, the land of activity, the land where you can really quickly achieve progress. In Karma Kanda, for example, you can go to heavenly planets. So you have this short life, yes, but you could do something really great and go to higher planetary systems. You could go to hell very quickly. Because in other places, it's like karma is quite fixed, and you have your heavenly, level of life, heavenly duration of life for a very long time. But here, you get the results very quickly, and spiritual results as well. So if you want to really develop spiritually and not to continue this cycle of, going upwards, downwards, going to the heavenly planets, then going back to our earthly plane, then committing some sins, going to hell for some time, then going back to earth, then becoming some kind of an atheist, but a pious atheist, and thus achieving some Bilasvarga, which is lower planetary systems that are actually not hell. They have also, they are called Bilasvarga, which means that they have a heavenly level of life also. So these lower demoniac, so-called demoniac planetary systems, they have a heavenly level of life also. And some of these places, it comes here in the 5th canto a bit later, they have a higher level of life than even in the heavenly planets of Indra. What to speak of our earthly plane. So you just have to keep in mind that demoniac lower planetary systems, it does not equal hell. Hell is another place. So hell is a special place. Yeah, hell is only for getting bad karma, where you have Yamadutas who torture you every day and every night and all the time. So it's a different plane. So instead of going downwards and upwards all the time, you can very quickly, here in our plane, you can reach spiritual development. And I want to quote from here. Yes, and forgot to mention that I mentioned that according to Puranic cosmology, Bharatavarsha is our planet, everything that we can see here. But according to the vision of Siddhanta, and Srila Prabhupada in his purports, he mentions this very often, that Bharatavarsha is India. So, and you never know which Bharatavarsha is mentioned. Bharatavarsha from the Puranic cosmology or Bharatavarsha is India. Even here in fifth canto, sometimes he writes like, it's written like in Bharatavarsha, and Srila in brackets says India. So we never know, you know. But anyway, just some quotes, wanted to give you some quotes. This is 5:17:11. Again, it will come later, 17th chapter. Among the 9 varshas, the tract of land, 9 varshas, remember these 9 sections. The tract of land known as Bharatavarsha is understood to be the field of fruitive activities. Learned scholars and saintly persons declare the other 8 varshas to be meant for very highly elevated pious persons. Other varshas, not our varshas. After returning from the heavenly planets, they enjoy the remaining results of their pious activities in these 8 earthly varshas. So it's not meant for karmic activities, it's also meant for pleasure, these other 8 varshas. And here, by the way, in the purport, Srila mentions, the heavenly places of enjoyment are divided into 3 groups. The celestial heavenly planets, this means Svarga, Indra's Svarga. Небесные. The celestial heavenly planets, the heavenly planets on earth, which means these other 8 sections, other 8 varshas, not Bharata Varsha. And the Bila heavenly planets, which are found in the lower regions. So this means lower planet. This is purport from 5:17:11. This is, I'm reading just the purport. Again, continuing from the purport. Among these 3 classes of heavenly places, Bhauma, it's called Bhauma. I said Bhu Svarga, it's Bhauma Svarga, our level. These 8 other varshas is Bhauma Svarga. The heavenly places on earth are the 8 varshas other than Bharata Varsha. So again. So actually there are many places of enjoyment here in this universe. But somehow or other we have gotten here. And it's just our, great fortune that we have gotten here. Remember also I mentioned, it's of course not so easy to remember all this, but I mentioned in one of these previous talks that this Kali Yuga is very special. And it comes only once in the day of whom? Of Brahma. Does anyone remember how long that is?
8
billion. Yeah. 8,640 million years. Why so? Because it's the day and the night. During the night, nothing, nothing is existing. It's just devastation, almost complete devastation. But during the day, there are many, many cycles, like 1,000 approximately. Actually, it's 994 to be bookwormish. But it's like compared to 1,000 cycles of Divya Yugas. Divya Yuga, what's a Divya Yuga? Who knows? Yeah, Divya Yuga, Maha Yuga, Divya Yuga.
All 4 yugas.
Yes, this is all 4 yugas, like Satya, Treta, Dvapara, and Kali. Now we have Kali. So this one cycle is called sometimes Chatur Yuga, Divya Yuga, Maha Yuga. This one cycle. So there are 1,000 of such cycles in the day of Brahma. And the same duration is his night. And only once in the day of Brahma, in the actually day, I mean the full day, day and night, Krishna comes himself. And Lord Chaitanya comes as Radha and Krishna combined. Because Lord Chaitanya, as Radha Krishna combined, Lord Chaitanya, who gives us the highest levels of prema, comes only after Krishna himself comes. So it's like the same lila. Krishna and Lord Chaitanya, it's the same lila. They come together. They are united. In other yugas, because you know that for Kali Yuga, the chanting of the holy name is prescribed, yes? And you may think, well, but what about other Kali Yugas that we had? It is said that, unfortunately, I can't give you any quotes, but I heard it many times from our pundits, that the level of Vaikuntha is given. So if you chant the holy names in these other Kali Yugas, the highest that you can get is the level of Vaikuntha. But the level of Krishna Prema, Goloka Vrindavana, is given only once in the day of Brahma. So this is why we cannot overestimate our luck here now. So, yeah. And also the demigods, they glorify this birth in Bharatavarsha, because they say that, just a second, yeah, by the way, they mentioned this. The people who take birth in these are prayers of demigods in the 19th chapter of Canto 5. The people who take birth in this tract of land are divided according to the qualities of material nature, the modes of goodness, passion, and ignorance. Some of them are born as exalted personalities, some are ordinary human beings, and some are extremely abominable. For in Bharatavarsha, one takes birth exactly according to one's past karma. You know? If one's position is ascertained by a bona fide spiritual master, and one is properly trained to engage in the service of Lord Vishnu, according to the 4 social divisions, Brahmana, Kshatriya, Vaishya, and Shudra, and the 4 spiritual divisions, Brahmachari, Grihastha, Vanaprastha, and Sannyasa, one's life becomes perfect. And I will not read everything here, but just I wanted to quote one thing. Just a second. Yeah, this is what demigods are saying. How wonderful it is for these human beings to have been born in the land of Bharatavarsha. They must have executed pious acts of austerity in the past, or the Supreme Personality of Godhead Himself must have been pleased with them. Otherwise, how could they engage in devotional service in so many ways? We demigods can only aspire to achieve human births in Bharatavarsha, to execute devotional service. But these human beings are already engaged there. Yeah, Bharatavarsha, they continue. Bharatavarsha offers the proper land and circumstances in which to execute devotional service, which can free one from the results of jnana and karma. If one obtains a human body in the land of Bharatavarsha with clear sensory organs, with which to execute the Sankirtana Yagna, but in spite of this opportunity, he does not take to devotional service, he is certainly like liberated forest animals and birds that are careless and are therefore again bound by a hunter. Yeah. So, and they continue again, very short quote. We pray that at that time, if any merit remains from our pious activities, we may again take birth in Bharatavarsha as human beings able to remember the lotus feet of the Lord. The Lord is so kind that He personally comes to the land of Bharatavarsha and expands the good fortune of its people. So these are the glories of Bharatavarsha. And especially in Kali Yuga, it's like action, yeah, I already mentioned this. Action, like special offer, because your life is very short, you know, and you can very, very quickly, especially in this age of Kali, achieve the highest levels of perfection. At least this is what Srila Prabhupada wanted from us, to do this in one life. Yeah, because sometimes devotees, they come to a point where they make a conclusion. You know what, well, it's too tough, it's too difficult. I want to watch some TV at home, whatever. Anyway, I'm chanting my rounds, you know. Maybe in several lives, I will achieve something. But in several lives, my goodness, it's very dangerous. Your next life may be in some more developed, at some more developed stage of Kali Yuga, where you will have some, you know, microchip from your birth, injected in your body or whatever, and you're going to be controlled by some digital artificial intelligence, and your opportunities for devotional service and chanting will be limited, or whatever we could imagine, you know, or some cannibals roaming around in desert-like environment, no fruit, no food, you know. So don't take chances. Srila Prabhupada says, do it in one life. Yeah, and this is about, I tried to emphasize this point because Srila Prabhupada, especially when he gave lectures in India, he emphasized that you Indians, you were born here, you should go out and preach. But here we, at least in this temple room right now, we don't have any devotees whose bodies are Indian, who were born in India. So this is why I'm emphasizing this point, that Bharatavarsha is our whole planet. And we are extremely lucky. But Srila Prabhupada also very often mentioned that, I think you know this quote, that India is lame and America is blind. Yeah, so, and just today I heard also in one conversation with one of his disciples, he mentioned that in America, not in America, in the Western world, everything is nice. Just please don't eat cows. So, anyway, he mentioned many times that India is lame and America is blind. He meant by this that, he explained this, I'm not quoting here, but he explained this and I'm paraphrasing. That India is lame materially now very lame. When you come to India and you expect some spirituality, you know, a lot of people not knowing anything about India, they come to India, they expect spirituality, but what they see is some dirt, you know. I now recall one story from a friend of mine whose father went on a business trip to India. And they went out of this airplane, they got on a bus, it was somewhere near an airport. And a crowd of beggars attacked this bus. They started, you know, shaking this bus, demanding some bakshish. And one of them, I don't know if it was real or fake, but one of them threw part of his hand, because he kind of had leprosy or something like that, and his hand was falling to the ground. He took this hand and threw a window into this bus. So these people inside the bus, they were completely shocked. And imagine, you know, they were on a business trip, yes, but imagine you come to India and you experience something like that. You will run away immediately, you know, without proper eyes, without proper understanding of, proper understanding of where to look for the spirituality. You may be just disappointed, to say the least. People say that India became like that, first of all, of course, because it was, in the past, it was robbed by the British Empire, yes. Many instances, like whole temples were robbed, completely robbed by the British Empire. Before that, by the Muslims. But before that, because of the fall down of the real Vedic civilization, of real Varnashrama, because it became just a, like, what they call it, my goodness, caste society. Not real Varnashrama, it became a caste society, and gradually, even materially, it started deteriorating. Because before that, it was a flourishing civilization. It was, even materially, it looked very like rich and auspicious. But now it doesn't look like that, but still it preserved the spiritual knowledge. And America has all the material facilities for preaching, you see, like airplanes, computers, gadgets, internet, everything. Almost every material achievement that we use in our day-to-day life now, it comes from the United States. Almost everything, you know, or from the West in general. But it should be properly used, you know, because Srila Prabhupada says that this West is blind because it doesn't know how to use this technology. Especially here, I don't know why, but we received this realization, very strong realization. I spoke to some other devotees, they felt the same. Here in Köln, we saw this, of course, in Ukraine, but in Ukraine there are not so many nationalities, other races as here. So you go to this Harinama, and you go to this main shopping street, you know, or main shopping streets, and you see people of various sizes, races, complexions, you know, and you see them with these bags, you know, with some brands on it, like, I don't know, Tommy Hilfiger, whatever. So they're walking, and their eyes, they don't look happy, you know, they're just blank, you know, or they are sitting there and drinking beer. Some of them, they are smiling, you know, they are having some conversations, but you see how useless it is, you know, how useless. Other than that, this civilization is quite developed. You know, if you compare Germany to India, or the United States to India, or some Scandinavian countries to India, of course, immediately people will see that Western countries are look much more attractive and they are more developed. So India is lame, materially lame right now, but it's still not very blind. It still preserves this knowledge. So we have to use this knowledge that we got from Bharata, from the land of Bharata, and inspired by Sri Prabhupada, by our spiritual masters, by Guru Parampara, by Sri Vijay Gauranga and Dayal Nitai, we have to preach in the West. We have to use all these technologies, all the current achievements of civilization. We have to just use it in Yukta Vairagya. We just don't have to artificially renounce everything, but just use it. Use it for preaching and persuading people that their life, it could be meaningful instead of being just useless, you know. Just imagine this. Like the size of this universe is horrifically, you know, tremendously huge. And Krishna and Lord Chaitanya come where? To here, to Bharatavarsha, yes? And when? How often do they come? Once in every 8,640,000,000 years. And they came only yesterday, so to say. Like Lord Chaitanya came 500 years ago and Lord Krishna came 5,000 years ago. We have such an opportunity. And these people, they are just sitting there and drinking some beer, you know, just relaxing, doing drugs, whatever. Just useless, just completely useless. But this is human life, human birth at such a special time, in such a special place. So we have to do something about it. So thank you very much. Grantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam Ki Jaya. Hare Krishna. If you have any comments, questions, protests, rotten tomatoes, please.
How long is the duration of life or Brahma Loka?
And Brahma Loka, they say that it's different. Like I heard various versions, but very often I read these quotes are there. You can find them if you want. That those who get to Brahma Loka after some, you know, births higher and higher. For example, first they get births in these planetary systems of the sages, like Maharloka, Tapoloka, Janaloka, these three planetary systems. And then after a certain level of development, they can go to Brahma Loka, and there they stay until the end of life of Lord Brahma. So for example, now it's the middle of his life. So if you get to Brahma Loka right now, it will still be like what? Around 155 trillion years. So left. So the duration of life of Lord Brahma is 311 trillion years and some millions. I don't remember, 40 million it seems to me, but I don't remember exactly. So you get there, you stay there with him until the end of this universe, and then it says that you get liberated together with Lord Brahma. So these sages who live with him, they stay with him until the end of this universe, until the complete devastation of this universe. Not some partial devastation, complete devastation at the end of his life. And then after the end of this universe, they get liberated.
What that means?
That means I don't know what. I mean, I don't know where they go. Maybe they develop pure Prema Bhakti. Maybe they develop Vaikuntha Bhakti, Aishwarya. I just don't know. I haven't seen any comments and I don't want to speculate. Of course, we may say that they go to Goloka, or some of them go to this place, some of them go to that place. We all have our rasas, after all. I don't know.
To come to Vaikuntha Loka, we should go through all these levels?
I haven't heard it put like that. Oh, I heard that you could get to Vaikuntha Loka from here. This, for example, I think it was Thakuram. Remember Thakuram, Saint Thakuram. Thakuram? Tukaram, yeah, that's it, Tukaram. He went to Vaikuntha straight from here. And even Vimana came for him. And he called his wife, like, come with me. And she said, oh, sorry, I'm busy with some household stuff. And he said, come, so like this. And remember also, yeah, so there are other cases also described. So you just go to Vaikuntha straight from here. It's possible. Yes. And Shubhapada also mentioned, I don't remember exactly where it happened, but he mentioned, if you are offered Vaikuntha, take this opportunity. So, yeah. Because actually there are descriptions also of Gopakumar traveling. Yes. And so we may assume from his travels that if you get to Vaikuntha Loka, from there, somehow or other, maybe sometime in the future, you may be able to get higher, if you really want. But, yeah, yes, yeah, that's what he did. But you can go directly, in this life you can go to Vaikuntha, if you want. Hare Krishna. Yeah, thank you very much. Srimad Bhagavatam ki.